Shiro was an ordinary office worker in modern Japan, living a dull, robotic life with the same routine day after day, while secretly craving something greater. Every morning, he would wake up, ride the bus to work, stay until late evening, then head back to his cramped apartment where he spent the rest of the night rotting his brain on TikTok. He always longed for something more, and that desire finally came true. One night, he suddenly awoke in a blank, white void with nothing in sight. His vision slowly sharpened, and he discovered he was seated before a white-haired K-pop idol who claimed to be God. Shiro wasn't a starstruck teenager, so he just stared blankly and demanded to know what was going on. The K-pop deity explained that Shiro had died and was now stuck in limbo, where his soul would eventually fade away. However, God decided to offer him a choice. He revealed that he could reincarnate him into a different fantasy world called Madius, where he could begin life again as anyone he desired. This immediately caught Shiro's interest, feeling like his ultimate dream had just come true. The god instantly pulls out a clipboard and begins jotting down the unique abilities he will grant Shiro. And once time is up, Shiro is sent straight to the fantasy world of Madius. When he wakes again, he finds himself in a forest and is thrilled by the chance to start life over. He quickly stands and explores until he reaches the forest's edge, where he spots a small village in the distance. He's eager to check out what wonders it may hold, but decides that showing up broke will only make him look suspicious and leave him starving. Then he recalls God telling him he'd receive boosted scouting abilities, allowing him to locate valuable items and ingredients to sell for profit. He grabs a stick and confidently shouts to activate the magic, only for nothing to happen. Panic hits as he wonders if God scammed him, but he soon realizes he simply used the wrong command word. When he finally says search, the scouting skill activates, revealing the locations of every collectible item in the forest. Realizing how useful this power is, he tests another ability designed to reveal detailed information about items. After trying several commands, the word scan triggers it, letting him learn specifics about what he can gather. Like someone at an all-you-can-eat buffet, Shiro collects everything he can, checks each item's level, and stores it all in his magical side bag, which can carry unlimited items without monthly fees or hidden charges. With all the materials packed safely in his tote bag, he heads toward the village. By the time the sun dips toward the horizon, Shiro reaches the village gate, guarded by a single sleepy sentry. Shiro greets him, jolting him awake, and discovers that everyone here is a short king, making Shiro the tallest guy around and basically peak Riz material. The guard asks if Shiro is a swordsman or knight, but is shocked when Shiro says he's mainly a gatherer, something pretty rare in this world. The guard opens the gate and advises him to visit the main shop in the village square, which handles that sort of business. Shiro steps into the calm village and walks along the wide road while tons of villagers peek at him from a distance, curious about the unfamiliar giant. Shiro, however, heads straight for the main shop and steps into the dim store. The man behind the counter greets him with a friendly tone and asks what he wants to trade. Shiro pulls out a smooth, oval pebble, which the shopkeeper grabs and instantly identifies as anteater droppings. He says he has never seen such a flawless sample and offers Shiro 5 silver coins. Shiro realizes 5 silver coins equals about 350 bucks, which is more money than most of you will ever touch. He quickly accepts, delighting the shopkeeper, who keeps rubbing his face up and down with excitement. Then the shopkeeper asks if Shiro has anything else to sell, and Shiro immediately puts out all the stuff he hoarded from the forest. The shopkeeper is absolutely stunned at the sight of so many items of such great quality and asks Shiro why would he come to a small village like this to sell such incredible items which can get him a lot of money in any big city. Shiro immediately lies that he is just a traveler who has been collecting stuff and traveling to different parts of the country. The shopkeeper recognizes his talent though and gives him a job to collect some valuable gems from the icy mountains nearby, where he might also come across some monsters. Shiro wasn't so sure whether he wanted to go for a mission like this right now, but the shopkeeper promises to pay 20 grand for the gems, which leaves him with no options but to accept. With that, he bids the shopkeeper farewell and roams around the village, finally finding an inn for himself. He gets a comfortable room inside and lays on the hard bed, tired from the day's work, wishing that he could take a bath and get the dirt and grime off of him. Just then, there is a knock at the door and a young girl enters the room with a tub filled with water for him to wash himself. Shiro, however, has only ever taken showers and asks what the hell is he supposed to do with this. The girl tells him that he is stinky and needs to wash himself with a damp towel to get cleaned. But Shiro asks whether they have a shower instead. The girl gets confused at this and tells Shiro that they have no such thing since only the nobles get to take a proper bath while the rest are supposed to clean themselves with water and a towel. Shiro can't believe that something as basic as a bath is gate-kept from the commoners. But the girl tells him that there are some mages who are able to perform magic and give other people baths in exchange for money. This information gives Shiro a sudden idea, and he pushes the girl out of the room after handing her the money with some tip. After closing the door, Shiro starts practicing his spells and finally manages to use a spell which makes him a waterbender, allowing him to take the much-needed bath. Finally, after freshening up, he lays down on the bed from exhaustion, still missing his showers, but decides to sleep so he can get an early start on the day. The next morning, he wakes up at the crack of dawn and moves towards the forest, looking for all sorts of things to gather. While searching for some mushrooms, he soon spots a weird-looking mark coming from one of the bushes. So, he goes in to investigate only to find a decomposed corpse on the ground. He gets jump-scared and falls flat on his before catching his breath and going for a better look. He figures out that this guy was a security corps member who must have died fighting some monsters. He wonders whether he should just leave the area, but decides otherwise. He takes the body and buries it deep within the ground before putting his sword as a headstone for the grave of the fallen man. With that out of the way, he decides to make some supper. And since the sun was already setting, he first creates a magical barrier around him and then sits on the ground before putting a pot over an open fire. Since he is not an idiot sandwich, he decides to make his own dinner with some wild green veggies that he found and some meat that he had. He makes a stew out of the ingredients, which turns out to be super tasty, ending the night on a high note. The next morning, he moves towards the haunted forest, which is completely crowded by dead trees and fog, making it difficult to see even in daylight. He uses his light magic to see and enters inside the forest, knowing that this place is known to have loads of monsters. But as far as he can see, there is nothing living present inside the forest. He starts collecting anything of value, and soon he is done with the place and decides to exit. He spots the light at the exit and races towards it, not knowing that he was rushing straight towards a dangerous ledge. He ends up falling down the cavern and would have surely died if not for his quick thinking as he uses flight magic to regain control and starts floating midair. He touches the ground softly and lets out a sigh of relief, realizing how close he came to death. Deciding to take things more seriously and be more careful from now on, he again uses his light magic inside the cave. And to his surprise, the area is filled with different kinds of ores. He quickly gets out a small hammer and gets to work, chiseling away the ores from the surrounding rocks, soon filling his bag up with a decent amount. He notices another ore at a distance, but a sudden earthquake reminds him that he can't spend much time here. So he quickly uses his fireball magic to blast away at the rock so he could get the ore quicker. To his delight, this ore turns out to be the Mizreal ore, which the shopkeeper wanted. So he quickly pockets it, but decides to go in further even after another earthquake hit. After a while, he notices some blue light coming from the end of the tunnel. So he follows it only to find an opening with the bluest lake he has ever seen in the middle of it. He quickly descends down the rocks to scan the lake, which turns out to be SS tier magical water. This is by far the coolest thing that he has found so far. So he immediately decides that he must take some of it back with him. But he starts wondering whether he has a canteen big enough to hold water and whether it would start leaking. Before he could decide anything, though, a huge black dragon emerges from the depths, spraying water everywhere and drenching Shiro, as well as he screams, asking who woke him from his deep sleep. Shiro has seen enough, though, and doesn't even flinch before going back to his default state as a soulless salaryman who always bowed to every single person in his life. He bows down to the dragon, apologizing for entering its lair. But the dragon finds it hilarious since he has never seen a man of such nerves and asks who exactly is he. Shiro replies that he is a normal human, which the dragon refuses to believe since he can sense a huge amount of magical energy flowing through Shiro, which is almost on par with the magical energy in the dragons itself. The dragon asks Shiro whether he could help him since only someone with an incredible amount of magic could help him in the situation which he is stuck in. He claims that he has an egg which is not hatching even though it's been a very long time, and asks whether Shiro could help him with it. He claims that he won't ask him to do it for free and simply touches the water from which dozens of huge Mizreal ores emerge. Shiro immediately agrees to the arrangement. So the dragon takes out a black egg and throws it towards Shiro. Shiro grabs the egg, trying to listen for a heartbeat before wondering what exactly is he supposed to do with it. Suddenly, he remembers that eggs are supposed to be warm. So, he uses his heat magic to instill warmth in the shell, which suddenly starts sucking out the energy from Shiro, making him wonder whether it was a scam and whether he is about to die. He blacks out and finds himself surrounded by warm water, where another K-pop god with black hair appears, claiming that Shiro has started doing which is disrupting the flow of this world. Shiro asks whether he is dead, but the god replies that not yet. And with that, Shiro returns back to his senses, waking up in darkness. He uses his light magic only to find out that the baby dragon has successfully hatched out of its shell. The dragon seems overjoyed while the baby dragon gets his footing on the ground. The dragon thanks Shiro for his help and asks him to give it a name. Like an idiot, Shiro decides to call the baby dragon B, after which, the dragon completely shocks Shiro by saying that from now on, B is going to stay with Shiro himself. Shiro can't believe that something so incredibly rare and beautiful could be bound to him. But the big black dragon tells him that he is already super strong and can surely protect the baby. With that, the dragon disappears beneath the surface of water, leaving Shiro and B to continue their journey together. Shiro and B soon exit the cave, and it is already evening by then. B starts flying around happily because it is the first time she is seeing the outside world, and Shiro realizes that it will get dark soon. He decides to set up camp nearby and then fills a glass with the magical water from the lake. The ancient dragon used his magic to connect Shiro's magic bag to the lake because the magical water is absolutely necessary for B's growth. She quickly finishes one glass and then asks for another, and Shiro pours her a refill. However, B kindly hands it to him because she wants him to drink the nutritious water and be happy as well. After that, Shiro uses some magic stones to create a barrier, skipping the hassle of speaking the full spells out loud. He knows that magic stones are really rare in this world. After reading a book he bought from Shakespeare, but that is not an issue for him because he can create magic stones easily. He concentrates heat magic in his palm and creates a magic stone that creates a controlled flame for cooking food. With the fire on, Shiro begins preparing meat stew, and B starts drooling uncontrollably on seeing it. Shiro thinks that she should be able to digest some stew and pours her a bowl. He warns her that it is too hot, but B gulps it down quickly and burns her tongue, which is pretty pathetic for a dragon. Shiro has to blow on the stew to make it cool enough for her to drink, and B drinks it till she is full and exhausted. Shiro finds her really cute, but then he asks her if she doesn't miss her dad at all. B immediately jumps over to hug him to tell him that she is happy to be with him. Shiro checks out her stats and finds that she is already at rank B and has some impressive gifts. He is shocked to read that, but thinks that no matter how strong she is, B is still a kid and she needs an adult to guide her. He begins telling her that even if she is stronger than him, she should not do anything reckless and listen to him. But the baby dragon is too sleepy and she starts snoring mid-lecture. On seeing her sleep, Shiro thinks that he got a cute partner, but not in the sense he asked the K-pop god and wonders if the god did this on purpose. The next morning, Shiro climbs up the cliff he fell from yesterday and reaches the forest. To his surprise, the forest looks completely different, and he thinks that it must be one of the quirky things that happen in this world. As B starts exploring the nearby area, Shiro decides to search for useful items and finds a bunch of new herbs. Suddenly, he feels a strange tingling, and the very next moment, B comes flying towards him, visibly scared of something. Shiro immediately searches for monsters nearby, and a bunch of pointers appear on the radar. That is surprising because he didn't find any monsters on the previous day and wonders if his bad smell that was repelling the monsters has been washed away. He is not afraid to fight the monsters because he might get some good materials after defeating them. However, the danger is not only in the forest, and soon a C-rank rock falcon appears behind him. B is terrified of the ferocious-looking creature, but Shiro finds it cute compared to the ancient dragon. As he reads the monster's description, he finds that its meat is tasty, and that is enough for him to hunt the monster. He first creates a shield and then shoots ice spikes at the rock falcon, bringing it down instantly. Shiro is happy that he got one ingredient, but then B points out to the monsters coming from the forest. He turns around to find wolves with snakes for tails and decides to face them in close combat. He casts enchantment spells to make his body lighter and faster. So, when the first wolf attacks him, he dodges it by jumping high in the air. He then makes his body ultra hard with magic and lands a kick to the first wolf's head, immediately unaliving it. The other wolves attack him, but Shiro is too fast for them. He dodges their attacks, and takes them out using powerful and swift kicks. Shiro collects meat from all monsters, but soon after that, he spots more monsters coming from the forest. He is annoyed now because he can't keep fighting forever, so Bee decides to help him. She tries flying while carrying him, and Shiro thinks that she can't do it. However, Bee uses her girl power to lift him up, and Shiro decides to help her by reducing his weight. He casts a spell to make himself lighter, but Bee was not expecting that and suddenly shoots high up in the sky. Shiro panics and tells her that she is flying too high, and the surprised Bee drops him. Shiro starts screaming as he falls to the ground, but the trees act as a cushion and he lands safely. Bee flies after him and begins licking his face, and Shiro is low-key annoyed by her. As he gets up, he finds they have come out of the forest because Bee was faster than a fighter jet. He thanks her for helping him and asks her to hold back her power a little bit the next time because he is much more fragile than her. But Bee doesn't understand those complicated words and hugs him tightly, breaking a couple ribs. After that, they resume their journey to the village, and Shiro starts waving around a branch he found in his backpack. He tells Bee that it is the branch of the legendary tree dress that is said to embody the world itself, but it is currently asleep. Well, Bee knows how to wake up the sleeping branch, and she breathes out a cloud of stinky gas that turns the tiny branch into a staff. Shiro is shocked to see this and wonders if a gatherer like him can even use a staff. He doesn't want people to think that he is a normie wizard or something, but his thoughts are disrupted when he hears a loud roar. Shiro immediately gets alert and ready to fight, but Bee flies towards the direction of the roar, making him worry about her. Shiro follows her and finds her circling a tree. As soon as he reaches the tree, he finds a ragged and exhausted elf and asks her if she was attacked by the monster. The elf refuses, and suddenly her stomach makes the loud roaring sound that had Shiro panicking. The elf woman tells him that she hasn't eaten anything in 3 days, and Shiro can't believe that the terrifying roar is actually coming from her stomach. She asks for water, and he immediately hands her his bottle that she empties in one go. The water makes her feel better, but it doesn't do anything to ease her hunger, and Shiro begins looking for a lunchbox that he brought along. He offers the lunchbox to the elf girl, who greedily devours it, and then shoots a hyper beam of joy, saying that the food is so delicious that she feels like she is going to heaven. Shiro is taken aback because he never thought elves could behave so univilized, but he tells her that the food tastes good just because she has been starving for 3 days. He then asks her how could she run out of food so quickly when there is a village not so far away from her location. She gets uncomfortable with the question, and then Shiro starts roasting her, saying that even noobs who don't know anything carry a lunchbox with them on journeys. The elf gets pissed and gets close to quarrel with him, but Shiro immediately moves back because she stinks. This racist with OCD says that he thought that elves would smell like peppermint and strawberries, but she smells like fresh manure. The elf gets angry at him and says she couldn't clean herself because she had to camp out for many days. She gets ready to leave quickly after that, thanking Shiro for the food, but telling him that it is gay to make fun of someone they just met. She runs away with that, and Shiro is left disappointed after his first encounter with an elf. Anyway, he gets back to gathering materials and then exits the forest. He spots a carriage coming towards them from over a mile away, and Shiro is really impressed by that. Soon the carriage comes close enough, and Shiro is a ruck on seeing a unicorn pulling it. The merchant driving the carriage is surprised to see him as well and asks what he is doing here. Shiro tells him that he is heading to the Tormei village on foot, and the merchant's family peek out of the carriage to see who is outside. The man looks at Shiro's staff and asks if he is a wizard or something, and he nervously replies that he is just a gatherer. That is more impressive because gathering experts are quite rare in this world. The man then invites Shiro to ride with them because they are also going to the Tormei village. He asks him if it will be fine for someone as tall and heavy as him to ride the carriage, but the man has no problem with that at all. Shiro takes up his offer and enters the carriage, learning that the kids find him amusing because he is extremely tall. As Shiro thanks the family for giving him a ride, they tell him it is not a big deal because people in this region always help each other out. They are really friendly towards him, and Shiro feels that they are too trusting for their own good. He asks them what they would do if he were a bandit and then tries to scare the kids. But the boy tells him that he can't be a bandit because the bell didn't ring. Shiro doesn't understand, so the woman shows him a bell with a magic crystal inside it that rings when a bad person is nearby. Shiro is impressed by this idea and thinks he can make the magic crystal himself, too. He suddenly remembers that he hasn't introduced himself, so he tells the family about himself, and they introduce themselves too. The man driving the carriage is Palom. His wife is named Eliza, and their kids are called Yunnan and Kane. While they are exchanging greetings, he suddenly starts making noises and the kids notice that the sound is coming from Shiro's back. They are eager to see what he is hiding under his coat, and Shiro gets nervous telling him that it is a rare monster, so they might be shocked on seeing it. Eliza tells him that it is not a big deal because adventurers usually have monsters accompanying them. This statement gives Shiro the confidence to let Bee out, but only after warning her not to bite anyone. The kids are smitten by Bee's cuteness, but the parents are surprised because dragons are quite rare monsters. Palom asks Shiro if he is a dragon knight since he has a pet dragon, and he explains that he coincidentally found a dragon egg and hatched it. But that is even more shocking for Palom and Eliza. They say that dragon knights are really hard to see and dragons are even more rare. Shiro gets curious about dragon knights now, and based on the anime he saw in the past life, he thinks they must be real badasses. Soon night arrives, and the family decides to set up camp. Shiro creates light and then places magic stones around the campsite to create a barrier. He tells everyone that the magic stones will keep the monsters away, but if something happens, Bee will alert them. The family puts their full trust in Bee instead of Shiro and the magic stones, and he is low-key disappointed. After that, Eliza gets ready to prepare dinner, but Shiro asks her to let him cook instead. He pulls out the cooking utensils and ingredients from his magic bag, which is another surprise for the family. He then prepares food with the ingredients he found today, and everyone is amazed by the taste. Palom even starts crying because he was bored to death after eating dried meat every single day of the journey. He says that Shiro is surely a magician and he is the magician of taste. Everyone starts laughing at this, and then they sing and dance before going to sleep. This is a new experience for Shiro, who used to eat dinner by himself on Earth, and he feels that having company while eating is a really great thing. By the time dawn breaks, Palom is already at work cleaning the reins and the carriage while the kids stay in their dreamy world with Bee tucked in between them. Shiro is already up and about as well and sits on the ground, passing time as he cleans his scissors to a shine. Eliza also emerges from the carriage after setting everything up and greets Shiro, claiming that anyone who takes care of their tools well makes a good adventurer. Shiro realizes that lately he has been really enjoying his life, and even though he got the gatherer class by complete chance, maybe he is naturally good at it. Soon enough, they get ready to continue their journey. But this time, Shiro asks whether he could take the reins for a bit, and Palom gladly agrees. Soon, he sat on the front seat alongside Palom, and they continued moving ahead without any trouble. The unicorn seems to be a very intelligent beast as it listens and responds to Shiro's every command. Soon, Bee also wakes up properly and immediately flies out to Shiro before settling near his legs. After an easy journey of another couple of hours, they finally see the first glimpse of the Tori village, and soon they arrive at the front gate. Shiro gets off right there while Palom and his family thank him for the wonderful time they had with him before moving on. The guard seems to know who Palom is as he comments that Palom always brings the spring with him. This interests Shiro, and he asks the guard what exactly Palom does, and the guard replies that Palom and his family chase after the warmer regions as he is a weaver by trade. So whenever Palom arrives in this village, that means that the warm spring and summers are around as well. According to the guard, there has been fewer game to hunt in these areas recently, as well, which makes Shiro realize why P was so happy with the food. He thanks the god for giving him the ability to be a good gatherer, as he never really has to think about finding food or money. A little while later, he goes in to meet with the shopkeeper who assigned him the quest and shows him all the spoils that he got. The shopkeeper spends a good amount of time viewing the items one by one, but he seems particularly interested in one of the rocks. Soon, he turns towards Shiro, asking where he found this particular rock, as this is not just a mythal ore, but it is a magical mythal ore. Shiro has no idea about it, but the shopkeeper claims that this is the stuff of legends. This finally shakes Shiro, who asks whether it's expensive, and the shopkeeper tries to make him realize the scale of this find by telling him that this stone contains an immense amount of concentrated mana, and even just 2 or 3 stones would be enough to replace all the magic stones in this kingdom. Shiro is shocked by this, but doesn't want to reveal his special skill, so he claims that he just randomly found it. The shopkeeper doesn't buy it, though, claiming that even if he found it randomly, he definitely has a lot of skill alongside a good amount of luck. He tells Shiro that his skills are wasted here, and that he should move towards the next big city from this village known as Belsam. There he will find people who actually have the funds to buy stuff like this, and this will also him learn more about this world. He also suggests he join a guild who could provide him with advanced level knowledge, which will definitely help him in adventures further on. Later that night, he unwinds in his room and starts searching more about guilds and adventurers, realizing that being an adventurer can actually be really beneficial for him, but he is in no hurry. He decides that his next step would be to leave for and join a guild. But for now, he is going to stay around Torme for a while. A couple days pass by during which he offers the beast that he killed a couple days ago to be cooked for the entire village. Since there was a shortage of game, everyone loved the taste of meat and salmonella probably, but even the village baddies were enjoying themselves. So, mission successful. He spends some more days roaming around the village gathering stuff, but soon enough gets ready to depart. The nice old lady gives him a bunch of seasonings and spices to take along with him for the journey before telling him that the villagers would love to have him for longer as they have all grown used to him being around. Shiro promises to return one day, but for now he needs to move ahead in his journey to make sure he is properly provisioned. The old lady provides him with a bunch of packed homemade meals since the journey to Belkame is long, which is going to take him nearly 1 month to complete. She tells him to come back to this village if he ever gets homesick, and Shiro thanks her before heading back to his room. He puts B to sleep for the long journey tomorrow and was about to lay down for the night as well when he thinks about how nice the village has been to him till now and thinks about how he should probably give something in return as well. With that, he gets up from his bed and moves towards the table where he looks at the lantern and the magical mythal stone. With that, he thinks about how the village guard has to stay outside day in and day out just to make sure no monsters get into the village. So, he uses his creativity and the magic stone's mana to fuse the lantern and create a new magical item. The next morning, when he was ready to leave, the entire village came to see him off for his journey. He realizes how this small village has become his actual home now, which he will definitely return to. So, he offers them the magical item he created. He tells the guard that this item can cast a magical barrier around them, which will protect them from any harmful monsters who come near them. The village is beyond grateful for such an amazing gift, but the shopkeeper takes the item in his hands and examines it before asking Shiro if he used the magic mythal stone for it. He opens the bottom and takes it out only to find the stone right there. But before he could resist and tell Shiro to take the stone along with him, Shiro runs away, telling the shopkeeper to keep it for the village. The entire village waves him off as his journey finally starts anew. The morning air is crisp on his face as he wanders through the open fields enjoying the beautiful day, when suddenly he runs into a huge crab monster. At first it scares the crap out of him, but he decides to check the stats of the beast, realizing that it's a C-ranked monster, which means that it shouldn't be too difficult to deal with. He also notices that the crab is supposed to be edible, which gets his mouth watering as he tells B that crab meat is really delicious. He gets ready for the fight and uses his magic to harden his body. But before he could even plan an attack, B goes ahead and uses his supersonic blast, which immediately downs it. Before he could chop it up, though, 2 more crabs appeared around him, moving side to side. He starts formulating a plan, thinking that the crabs could only move sideways, which he could use to his advantage. But to his horror, the crabs immediately run straight at him without any time to dodge the attack. He wonders whether this is where his journey ends. But thankfully, B is not as incompetent as him and grabs him by the collar before lifting him up in the air while the 2 crabs collide with each other violently. Both the crabs die instantly. But the danger is not over yet as the first one gets up and starts running towards him once again. Shiro, however, is better prepared this time and grabs out his staff before hitting a home run, killing the monster instantly. That evening, they get ready for a hearty dinner. So, Shiro uses his enchantments to reinforce his hand, using it to slice off the crab legs before putting them all in a pot and adding water alongside other spices to create a thick stew. Once the meat was done, they cracked open the shell and took their first bite of a crab in this new world. Loving the flavors immensely, Shiro is pleased with himself as he tells B how amazing he feels and how he can't wait for them to travel around more so they can taste more flavors of this wonderful world. Apparently, the villagers were lying jerks as I am pretty sure it didn't take him a month to reach the city of Belt, which is a huge protected structure surrounded on one side by water. He gets in line alongside other peasants to enter the city, but realizing that he might stand out, he uses his magic to make his magic bag become normal and even tells B to hide for a while. Soon he is called by the immigration department where the SE checks his luggage and his ID to make sure he is not there to topple any towers. They seem very lax though, as they simply use a basic magic scan to check whether he has any criminal record, while the woman checks his bag but finds nothing out of the ordinary. Shiro is interested in knowing how his stats look to other people, but he realizes that they must look normal, as the god made sure that he wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb. The guy tells him that he seems to be all clear, but he has a certain blessing of the dragon, which is confusing them. Shiro decides to reveal the truth and shows B to them, who are immediately taken by its cuteness. But the TA agent tells him to put a tag on the dragon since they can't have unidentified nukes floating around. Shiro uses a bracelet that he had and puts it around B's tail, which marks their immigration complete, and they are welcomed into the city. He is immediately taken by the bustling city as people of all races walk together to their destinations, buying food, getting armor, going to training halls, etc. He walks around in awe before noticing the guild hall at a distance. He makes his way straight towards the Adventurers' Guild and enters the hall to find a beautiful place filled with all kinds of warriors and mates. Suddenly, he is approached by Arya, a bunny girl senpai who welcomes him to the guild and asks whether he would like to register himself here. Shiro nods and follows her to the desk, where she takes down all his information and asks whether he has had any previous combat experiences. Shiro replies that he hasn't had much experience, but he had fought a weird bird, some snake wolves, and a bunch of huge crabs. Arya looks confused and asks whether he has any proof for all this. So, this idiot reaches into his Doraemon pocket and pulls out an entire dead crab before plopping it on the table, causing it to shatter under the weight. Ariel gets scared and runs outside while all the people in the guild gather around to see what's happened. One of the furries there uses his special skill to check Shiro and tells Era that she should calm down, as Shiro doesn't seem to be a dangerous person. Shiro is a little confused at this, but the furry explains that he has a special ability which lets him see the intentions of each person. If he showed up in red, that would mean that he wants to cause trouble, but since he turned out to be blue, he should be fine. Shiro is glad for that, but the furry asks why exactly is he carrying around a dead crab. Shiro replies to them that obviously he wants to eat it, as only an idiot would waste good crab meat. But this scandalizes the guild members, as it doesn't seem like people of this world eat crabs, but they are still more accepting than America under Trump, so they let him live as he wants. With that, the furry tells Arya that she should finish up his registration. He asks Shiro whether he has any partners, and Shiro replies that his only partner is his dragon bee for now. This really shocks the onlookers, as they haven't seen many dragons in their life. And for a person to be a gatherer, which in itself is a rare class, and then to have a super rare beast, is almost impossible. Yet Shiro stands there. He immediately starts getting all the attention as a couple of guilds start inviting him to their parties. Arya decides to take him to the next room for some privacy. But while Shiro was expecting a handy beneath the table, all he got was a guild's mark on this application, proving that he is an actual adventurer. With that, his application is complete, and Arya awards him with a copper bracelet, denoting his rank as F, which is where every new member must start. Shiro doesn't mind, though, as he starts imagining all the amazing adventures he would get to go on now. It's been half a month since Shiro's arrival in this city, and he has already become a favorite. He constantly brings really good quality items that sell in no time, marking him as the best gatherer of the city by far. This results in him getting even more jobs where clients are specifically asking for him in particular, since he doesn't charge an exorbitant fee, but gives them items that make their money worth. He returns back to the guild once again, dropping the fresh load of magic mushrooms that he got from Mike Tyson. The beast man behind the desk inspects the mushrooms, since he knows Mike only prefers the best mushrooms, or he would bite someone's ears off. With Shiro, however, he doesn't really have to worry, since the mushrooms are always top-notch. Before he could even pay him though, Arya sneaks into the room with a bunch of more quests for him, claiming that they have gotten a lot of orders that are asking for Shiro in particular as the gatherer. Shiro looks at the number of quests she was holding up in her hands and tells her that he can't possibly do it all at once. So, he takes half of them while Arya keeps the other half for safekeeping. With that out of the way, Shiro decides to unwind a little and heads towards the bathhouse to have a lovely warm soak, which completely sucks the pain out of his body. He lets out a sigh of relief as the warm water caresses his body like a lover's kiss, while even B seems to be enjoying himself as he swims around in the water, free of any worries. Shiro remembers how disgusting and dirty the bath water used to be when he first came here. But thanks to his magic, he is able to recycle recycle some clean, warm water, giving a gift to the people of this guild. His thoughts are broken by a silver-cold lizard man named Clay, who enters the bathhouse, greeting Shiro and asking how he has been. Shiro replies that he is fine before asking why he is here since he is usually adventuring somewhere during this time. Clay walks into the bath beside Shiro, replying that he wouldn't have been here at this time either. But his old scars have been acting up, which was causing him a lot of irritation. So, he came here to have the warm water soothe him down a little. He then turns his attention towards Shiro, claiming that he recently heard some rumors that Shiro can use healing magic as he apparently used his magic to heal a poor sick man from the slums. Shiro simply smiles, replying that he just replicated something that he saw before once. Clay then asks whether he took any money from the slum dweller, but already knows the answer that he wouldn't charge the poor man anything. He tells Shiro that if he wanted to, he could make a killing using his healing magic to treat people since healers are in great demand at all times. But Shiro wonders whether the healers who charge copious amounts of money for an X-ray would start hating him. Clay simply laughs, asking whether he got the notice to increase his rank. But Shiro replies that he is happy the way things are right now and doesn't necessarily want to change his rank as soon as he wants to stay away from the limelight. Clay responds that if he acts this way, he would be pushed more and more into the limelight and might end up creating some enemies who would do everything to see him destroyed. With that piece of advice, Clay gets up from the bath and walks out. After that relaxing bath, he returns back to the receptionist where he gets paid for his work while he snacks on some crackers. But the receptionist ends up asking once again when exactly is Shiro planning to raise his rank. Shiro smiles and refuses, claiming that he still needs to perfect some things before he could think about raising his rank. He knows that the guild could probably get much higher paying jobs for him if he was a higher rank, which would be good for him and the guild as well. But right now, he is at a very good position where he gets paid for what he does without sacrificing any of his personal freedom. Just when he was about to head down to his room, a messenger enters the guild shouting that the city is going to get attacked by a horde of goblins. Immediately, the whole guild starts jumping into action, calling down warriors, getting their armor and shields ready. While the guild master asks one of the scouts about the ranked adventurers that are still in the city, the little mouse-like girl replies that only Clay is available right now. As the rest are already on some mission, he tells her to call him immediately and announces that every single adventurer Rand D and above needs to participate in this fight. Shiro watches the mayhem unfold, but decides that it's not his problem to deal with since he is still rank F. But the guild master ends up calling him as well, claiming that they need his help right now. The guild master reveals that the goblins are probably going to attack from the western side and try to breach the main gate. So, their best chance to defend the city would be to never let them cross the bridge to the main gate. Immediately, a roar of approval goes over the entire guild as warriors excitedly take out their swords, making Shiro realize that all these guys are proper jocks who are getting excited, whereas he is more of the liberal type who drinks matcha latte with oat milk. Suddenly, two of the Oish brutes standing beside him start making fun of him, telling him to stay out of their way, as he might get crushed if he comes under their feet, before he could make a mom joke. The guild master interrupts them, asking Shiro whether he is the gatherer that he has been hearing about for a while. He claims that some people in the guild have been glazing him and praising him unconditionally, and that's why the guild master named Grit decides to test him out to see whether he is the real deal or not. Grit also gets impressed by the fact that Shiro is one of the very few people who haven't been intimidated by him and bids him luck. He leaves the mouse Moo with him and takes the other two brute. Moo turns towards Shiro and apologizes since F-ranked adventurers are usually pulled out from such events. But Grit must have seen something in him, which is why he is letting Shiro fight. This seems to be the very first fight for Moo as well, since she is overexcited at the thought of finally meeting real enemies at the battlefield. That excitement soon turns to horror, however, as she can't even stop shaking from the fear and anxiety of the attack. She keeps getting spooked by birds around the area and hugs Shiro as tightly as possible, telling him to save her. Shiro realizes that this is going to be troublesome if she keeps obstructing his movement in a real fight, so tells her to chill out for now since they haven't even seen an enemy yet, let alone get involved in the battle. He gives her a little pep talk, telling her to simply focus on healing the wounded adventurers, and that in itself would be very helpful. Miu seems to feel a little better after this, and she finally stops crying before running back to the camp to help the wounded. Clay's laugh surprises Shiro a little, who wasn't expecting him to be at the same location. They start talking, and Shiro immediately asks why he is not at the front lines since he is one of the best fighters that they currently have, but Clay replies that his old scars have been really hurting recently. Without any help, Shiro immediately pinpoints the area of the scar, which surprises Clay a little, who asks Shiro whether he thinks that Clay got it while running away since the scars are on his back. But Shiro shakes his head in disagreement. He knows Clay enough to deduce that he would never run from an enemy, which means that he probably got that wound while trying to defend someone very close to him. He claims that the scar is a mark of bravery, that Clay put his life on the line and saved someone. And even after that, he is back again on the battlefield, ready to save anyone who needs his help. Before they could continue their talk, though, Clay notices a cloud of dust approaching them at a distance, which suddenly twists his face in horror as he realizes that the guild master's formation must have failed and the goblins have breached the area. He immediately picks up a spear and gets ready to fight. Shiro tells him to stay back since his scars are giving him trouble, but Clay tells him that he has some new friends to save today and runs off towards the oncoming enemies. Shiro realizes that he must join the battle now as well. So with a sigh, he takes out his magic staff and creates a barrier around the tent area where the wounded are being healed. He immediately uses his super speed to run towards the battle, where he finds only a few tattered group of adventurers getting overwhelmed by the goblins attacking them. The two brutes who tried bullying Shiro are also there holding their ground against the enemies, but several goblins are able to pass past them towards the city. Shiro had no intentions of letting them go though, and he uses his magic to harden his body before punching the crap out of the goblin. He realizes that these goblins are much stronger than the enemies he faced before, so he asks B's help, who immediately gets down from his shoulder and picks the out of every single goblin in the area, knocking them down immediately. The other adventurers thanked Shiro for his help, claiming that things were going according to the plan, but a high-ranking goblin sergeant appeared out of nowhere, collapsing the front line completely. It was only because of Clay that they managed to fall back and hold their ground. Till now, Shiro realizes that Clay might be in trouble, so he immediately rushes inside the forest where he finally finds Clay fighting against a group of goblins, slashing them down one by one. But to his horror, his scars start aching, forcing his knees to buckle in pain. But that was a mistake, as immediately some goblins try to take him down. Thankfully, Shiro intervenes just in time, shocking the crap out of the goblins, saving Clay's life. Before they could back off, however, the hobgoblin appears and jumps to attack them. They both dodge the attack, but start getting surrounded by goblins once again. Clay tells Shiro to run away while he holds them back, but Shiro decides to try something new. V shocks a bunch of goblins, causing some confusion, during which Shiro takes out the mono water from the cave and sprays it all over Clay before chanting a healing spell, which not only heals his back completely, but transforms him into Kaiju number 8. After that, Clay manages to absolutely destroy every single goblin all on his own, and by the time the rain stops, Clay is the only one standing. The guild master also arrives at the scene, thanking Shiro for his continued support and promises to reward him for his help. Later that evening, Clay enters Shiro's room and has now returned back to his normal self. He asks Shiro what exactly he threw at him, and Shiro explains that the water was Monarch Lake water from the lair of an ancient dragon. Clay replies that his ancestors used to be dragons, but now he is nothing more than a lizard. But thanks to Shiro, he has managed to transform into a half-dragon form, but claims that he is too scared to use it. He is afraid of losing control of himself and destroying everything around him. But Shiro tells him not to worry too much. Suddenly, Clay gets serious and asks Shiro who he is exactly. Shiro finally decides to tell him the truth, replying that he has been reincarnated to this world after he died in another world. Clay finds it hard to believe, but after what he has already seen, he can't really believe his experiences anymore. They decide to call it a night and return back to their beds. Shiro wakes up early next morning and goes out into the city to explore some more. When he finds a shop selling all kinds of goods, he stands there watching from the window. When the shopkeeper arrives to open the store, asking whether he is interested in any weapons or ancient artifacts, Shiro immediately asks the furry if she sells scissors for gathering materials at her shop, and she replies that she doesn't have anything like that. She immediately figures out that Churro is the gatherer everyone is talking about, and says she can get him some good quality scissors. The furry introduces herself Ribble and says that their chief blacksmith is a true master and he can make any type of tools. However, if Shiro wants him to create scissors for him, he will need to find some things that he is looking for. Shiro is a bit confused by this, so Ribble leads him inside the store. He stops in his tracks as he sees 3 blacksmiths hard at work, and Ribble tells him that she fell in love with the way the blacksmiths pounded the red-hot iron. After that, she leads him to the boss of the shop, who is a grumpy old dwarf. Ribble introduces Shiro to him and suggests that he could bring some Ildra or for them, which they desperately need to win the upcoming sword-making competition. The judgmental dwarf replies that he is not sending a mere gatherer into the dangerous mines, but Ribble says that they need to give him a chance. The dwarf and the furry begin arguing, and in the end, Ribble dominates the old guy by pulling his beard and telling him they can't win the competition with a half-baked sword. The dwarf yells at her, saying that the mine is especially dangerous right now because there is news that demons are present there. He declares that the safety of his customers is his top priority, and that is why he can't send Shiro to the Ruhai mines. Ribble gets emotional on hearing how much the old-timer cares about their customers and apologizes to Shiro for wasting his time. However, Shiro puts a plate of cookies on the table, asking the chief blacksmith if he will make a pair of scissors for him if he can bring him some Ildra or from the Ruhai mines. The dwarf panics on hearing this because he doesn't want to be blamed for anyone's death, but Shiro assures him that he is perfectly capable of protecting himself. He pulls out a crab claw from his pocket, and on realizing that it belongs to a B-rank monster, he agrees to let Shiro go to the mine. The next day, Shiro rides a carriage along with other adventurers as he heads to the Ruhai mines, and Bee keeps dancing because she is excited to go on a new journey. Meanwhile, the other adventurers talk about how strange things have been happening around the area recently, like plants withering out of nowhere and disturbing sounds coming out of forests. Shiro gets a little conscious on hearing this and wonders if these things are happening because of him, but he shakes those thoughts from his head. Once he gets off the carriage, he passes by a horse trader and begins thinking that he wants to own a horse someday. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice from the building yelling at the trader for scamming her. It turns out to be the stupid elf he saved in the forest earlier, and she is telling the trader that she ordered a strong white horse that could run so fast it could basically fly. However, the trader gives her a giant white bird instead, and the elf is not having it. The horse merchant tells her that they are very inclusive around these parts, and any creature that can carry cargo is called a horse. No matter what species it is, the elf girl immediately realizes that it was her mistake for thinking that a horse shop would sell horses. She apologizes for not wording her order more clearly because she actually wanted a Pegasus, and the merchant tells her that she can only find them in the Dwarven Kingdom. Shiro just hears the entire exchange from a distance because he doesn't want to get involved with the crazy woman again. Even though they are both heading in the same distance, he decides to gather some materials along the way and immediately enters the forest to pick some shrooms and flowers. As he is picking the flowers, he hears a loud roar, but this time he knows that it is not a monster. He follows the sound to find the elf woman almost passed out due to hunger yet again. He gives her some water and food, thinking that she must have a real smooth brain to not have learned anything from the previous incident. As soon as the elf finishes eating, she is full of energy and gets up to thank Shiro. However, he can't bear the terrible smell she gives off and instinctively uses the spell to clean her. She is pleasantly surprised by this and asks what did he do to her. Shiro replies he used a spell to clean her because she was ruining the image he has of elves as a race. The elf woman then introduces herself as Vel and thanks Shiro for saving her twice. He tells her it was no biggie and begins walking away, but Vel stops him saying that elves always repay favors and she wants to help him somehow. Shiro clearly tells her that he doesn't need anything in return, so Vel insists that she will help him with his work in that case. He flies over to her and Vel remarks that even the dragon approves of her. Cairo decides there is no harm in letting her tag along till the next town, and he gets busy with collecting the mushrooms again. Belle soon comes to him saying that she found a rare monster poop that sells for a lot, but it is just a lot, and the next time she brings the dung of a normal animal. Despite being disheartened twice, Vel believes the third time will be a charm and brings a poisonous mushroom with her instead. Later that evening, she offers to collect firewood to cook food, but Shiro tells her there is no need for that because he can use magic stones. However, Vel tells him that the signs of a campfire are helpful to other travelers who follow this route because it lets them know this is a safe space to camp. Shiro sees the logic in her argument and lets her collect wood, but Vel brings a big and thick log instead because that is how she likes them. Shiro tells her that they can't burn such a big log so easily, but Vel has him covered. She eats the log high in the air and then slashes it into smaller pieces using her dagger. Shiro is surprised on seeing this, but when he finds that Vel's daggers are rank weapons, things suddenly start making sense. After that, he cooks a delicious stew for everyone, and Vel is blown away by the taste. She then asks Shiro if he is also heading to the Kingdom of Dwarves, and he agrees, revealing that he is trying to mine or from the Ruhai mines. He asks Vel why is she going to the Dwarf Kingdom, and she gets sad as she replies that she is looking for the white Pegasus of heaven that her sister wants to find. She doesn't let her sadness dampen the mood around the campfire and says that she is even more indebted to Shiro now. He gets an idea and asks her if she can be his bodyguard during the rest of his journey. Vel gets really excited at the idea to protect Shiro from all kind of evil enemies. But what he really wants is to learn helpful things like the firewood tip she gave him earlier. Vel is confused that he wants so little in exchange for feeding her, but she agrees to his offer. She acts like a dignified and graceful elf as she shakes hands with Shiro, who suddenly gets excited on seeing her like this. However, all that excitement of being with an elf goes down the drain when Vel starts snoring loudly and Shiro can't sleep. The next day, he continues the journey to the Dwarven Kingdom with zero sleep. As soon as they reach the border city, Shiro heads to an inn to try Dwarven cuisine, and Vel remarks that it is as delicious as her lizard man friend told her. Shiro tells her that he also has a lizard man friend, and Vel begins boasting about her friend, who is the Holy Dragon Knight of the Stalas Empire. That phrase sounds similar to Shiro, and just then Clay speaks out from the table behind him asking Vel if she is talking about him. Shiro and Vel are surprised to see him there, and Clay remarks that it must be a work of fate that his two friends are traveling together. He then turns to Shiro asking how could he be so heartless to leave the town without telling him, and Shiro nervously replies that he informed the guild. Clay is not satisfied with that answer and asks where is he going. Once he learns that Shiro is going to the Raihe mines, he starts lecturing him again, saying that adventurers at his rank can't even accept quests to go to such dangerous mines. He says that the place is extremely dangerous, and if Shiro is not getting a serious reward out of it, he should not go to the mines. Shiro proudly says that he is getting a good reward as a master blacksmith is going to make him the ultimate scissors for collecting ingredients. Clay is dumbfounded because this sounds like a stupid reward, but Shiro believes that if he is on good terms with the blacksmith, he will make him high-quality cooking utensils in the future. Clay calls him an idiot sandwich for accepting this offer. Even as Shiro claims that scissors are the most important tool for a gatherer, Clay suddenly declares that he is going to come along on this quest because he is going to the dwarf country to repair his spear anyway. Shiro is not really comfortable with the idea, but then Vel eagerly asks Clay if he is also going to be Shiro's bodyguard too. She begins boasting about how she is going to protect Shiro till he reaches his destination. Clay likes the idea, and he decides to become a bodyguard as well. Shiro, however, is not happy about this situation. Even though he knows both Vel and Clay are quite strong, their personalities make him worried about his peace of mind. Soon after that, they reach the capital city of the dwarves. But there is a huge line outside the city gates. Luckily, Clay knows the guards, and they let him and his friends use the special entrance reserved only for Vic. As they walk down a long flight of stairs, the guard gives them a lecture about the city's history. Once they reach the city, Shiro and Vel are amazed to see that the dwarves dug out a mountain to create this underground city. Meanwhile, the guard tells Clay that the king wanted to see him. Shiro is surprised to hear that Clay knows the king as well, and the lizard man replies that he is actually on good terms with the king, even though he doesn't deserve it. The guard tells him to stop acting humble because he is the hero who saved their country. Clay says it was all a misunderstanding and explains the real story to Shiro. He says that back in the day, the dwarves were great at making weapons, but terrible at using them. So, a powerful demon oppressed them and collected tribute from them. One day, he was just passing by the area, and as soon as the dragon saw him, he flew away for some unknown reason. The dwarves thought that he forced the demon to run, and they began calling him a hero. Well, the guard says that the dwarves still think he is a hero, and they have even erected a statue of him recently. But Clay face palms because they have made him look like Godzilla. Once they reach the palace, Clay immediately confronts the king about the weird statue, but the king says everyone in the country finds it cool. After that, the old king turns his attention towards Shiro and asks the reason for his visit. Shiro hands him a letter of introduction from the master blacksmith and requests permission to enter the Rue mines. The king asks Shiro if he knows that the mines have become a den of demons after a recent earthquake, and he affirms. Clay tells the king that he is going to escort Shiro as his bodyguard, and he can also guarantee that Vel is strong enough to keep up with him. On hearing this, the king permits Shiro and his group to enter the Rue mines and find the cause of the demon uprising there. Clay accepts the mission and Shiro complains that he doesn't want to go on an investigation mission. However, he doesn't have much say in this matter because Clay is the hero of the dwarves and he has already said yes. Soon, the three of them are led into the mines by a dwarf named Zambo, and Shiro uses his spells to light up the dark cave. He then uses another spell to memorize the map Zambwa gave them so that he doesn't get lost. And both his bodyguards say he is doing impossible things again. Shiro ignores them and starts searching for the Hydra or with his skills, but he can only find a small amount of low-quality ores. Zambo is impressed that he could find the ores, and as Shiro suggests going deeper into the cave, he alerts him about incoming danger. Everyone gets into position, and Shiro uses his search skill to verify B's alert. Just a second later, two spider monsters arrive there, and Clay immediately takes down one of them with his spear. Shiro paralyzes the other one, giving Vel the chance to finish it off. They continue their journey after that, and Shiro spots a huge amount of high-quality ILR or behind a dead end. He obtains permission from Zambwa and then blows a hole in the wall, leading them to an empty space filled with purple crystals. While Shiro thinks they are the Ildra or he is after, Zambwa tells him they are Ildite crystals, which are even rarer and more precious. Shiro fails to understand the importance of his discovery when B frantically warns him about incoming danger. Everyone goes out, and from the menacing footsteps, Zambo can tell that a demon is approaching them. Shiro suddenly steps ahead, telling Clay and Belle to let him handle this enemy, because it is not an ordinary demon. It is a giant crab demon, and Shiro wants to hunt it down himself because he wants to eat its delicious meat. He starts cuddling with him in celebration, and Shiro tells her that he is also extremely happy right now. He is drooling because the crab in front of them looks really delicious, and he is so excited that he could eat its flesh raw. As the two of them dance like idiots, Clay and Vel are dumbfounded. Vel tells Shiro to stop getting distracted in front of the monster, and thanks to her intervention, he is able to notice the crab attacking him just in time to dodge its heavy claw.